Happy New Year to you. Oh, you say, "What? That was yesterday." You're right. I live near a town called Pasadena. And in Pasadena, they have something that they have every year. They have a couple of things regularly, but the one is the Rose Parade. And way back when, in the 1800s, when this was established as an event, some of the people who were citizens in Pasadena had come together and agreed that the parade would never be held on a Sunday. Normally it's on the first day of the year and everything, but because today is the second, that's when the parade will be viewed. It'll be all the bands from across the nation. There'll be horses and floats and everything, but it will always be the day after Sunday. It's never on Sunday itself. Now, in this parade, there are a lot of people. You know, there's the Grand Marshal and there's the various dignitaries and everything that are in different automobiles. But there's one special float that's always there, and it's the Queen of the Rose Parade and her court. Now, see, there's a community college, Pasadena City College, and from that student body is selected the queen, and she kind of rules over. She's one of the earliest floats that comes down the parade line, and there's the queen. Now, I want you to know that she wears a crown. James tells us about the crown you and I will be able to wear one day in a great parade. Let's listen to the word as it's read for us today.
James chapter 1, verses 12 to 27. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. When tempted, no one should say, "God is tempting me." For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. Don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of all he created. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Do not merely listen to the word, and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and after looking at himself, goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world.
In this earliest verse of our passage today, it says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, the person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." Yesterday, we talked about the whole issue of considering it joy when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing is proving how is our faith. What is the area that we need to grow in? And then the perseverance to make it through. And that's the operation God is having so that we become complete, mature, full of what God has intended for us. Now, in these tests or trials, we live in a particular day that we want to know whose fault it was. You know, who ran into my car? Why did they run into my car? It's always somebody else's fault. Well, I've had some accidents. In fact, oh dear, before I was 21, I had had 9 accidents, and my parents' insurance had been canceled. And all of those accidents, I got to say, 8 out of the 9 were my fault. And one of the things my father had shared with me is take responsibility, John. That's what a mature person does, is they accept the responsibility they have in whatever thing has happened in life. Well, in this part, James is speaking to the people who are going to be tested, and he goes, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. Oh, and I know, right there in your mind, you go immediately back into Matthew, where Jesus is being tempted by Satan. You know, look at this rock, it could be food. The lust of the flesh, the things, the appetites, you know, or else the pride of throw yourself down from this pinnacle and his angels will not let your foot slip. You know, and the whole idea, Christ overcame every temptation. I don't. There's times I fail. There's times I stumble. And he goes on here to talk about, in verse 14, but each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desires and enticed. Where does temptation come from? Well, we spoke about it first, that who was it that was tempting Jesus? It was Satan who was tempting Jesus. It was the temptation of the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life. Those 3 elements were what Satan used against Christ. See, you got to know that Satan always he's a winner in certain situations. And if he has a game plan that's winning, he wants to stay with it. Do you remember that Adam and Eve were tempted in the same way? That fruit looked good to eat, and it was good to look at, and then it was possible to make one wise. So that we can know that temptation comes from Satan. But there's also a temptation that uses those 3 elements in 1 John chapter 2, verses 14 through 16. It says, love not the world, nor the things of the world, which are the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life. So there's Satan, there's the world, and then thirdly, where else does temptation come from? When we are dragged away by our own evil desires. Years ago, there was a comedian called Flip Wilson, and he had a character that he played named Geraldine, and she would always say, well, the devil made me do it. Well, no. Life may be, we're tempted by Satan. We're going to be tempted by the world. The advertising community says, don't you want this? And there's also just within ourselves. So this year, as we're looking to have our new direction ahead, I would encourage you to consider that what is it that causes you to be tripped up? Is it the battle against Satan? Well, we're told to flee youthful lusts for Timothy. You know, just run away from those things. Don't be around them. And also, what do we focus on? when the world entices us in, is there a way we can fill our minds, our eyes, our time with another source of information? Like things like, well, the Bible. Lo and behold, how about the Bible? Let it be the one who gives us the message. And recognizing our own failings. It's a challenge this new year to see where does that test come from. When we look at the new year and we see the people around us, I want to encourage you that as you journey on your faith travels, the trek we're on, I want to encourage you to consider that the more we see those who are in need, I think the better our walk with the Lord is. When we see someone in need and we're moved, yeah, we can feel we want to do something, but actually do something for them in some way to lift them up, to raise them up. I was in India and spoke with some missionaries there, and the whole issue of why are there so many poor people on the streets? And it says, because that's the Hindu of karma, that's what they deserve, and for me to bother that is going to affect my karma. But in Christianity, here in James, he tells us, religion that God our Father accepts as pure, faultless, is this: to look after the orphans and widows in their distress and to keep ourselves from being polluted by the world. Let me pray for us. Lord, today I ask that you would guide us on this, the first day of the week as we begin our new year, that we would truly look to others in ways that we could help them in their distress, in the challenges they're facing. May we see the orphan or the widow, and may we touch their lives in a way that will elevate them above where they're at, the struggles they're having. Lord, may we trust in you to work through us. As Christ would do it, may we do it this year. In your precious name.